Night Vision. Following clues left by our ancestors, we unbury the past to reveal a knowledge of unfathomable value, putting us just a little closer to our own true birthrights. From the secret history of a possible bloodline of Jesus Christ, the secret history of America's founders, to the secret history of extraterrestrial interaction on our planet, here to bring light to the night. Your host for Night Vision Radio, Renee Barnett.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on this very special edition of Night Vision, coming to you live from Southwest France. Tonight, it's going to be a little bit different, because I'm not going to be asking the questions, I'm going to be answering them. And our beloved Night Vision historian, James Martin, is going to be putting me under the lights to interrogate me about the documentary film that I released with my partner, director Bruce Burgess, in 2008 that people are still talking about, which is really wild. And wild is the word, because it was a wild, wild ride. And there was so much going on, so much that people did hear about, but also very, very much that people did not know, did not hear about. So there's everything from intrigue and spying and, sabotage of our brake lines and all kinds of things like that, as well as a hoax that we were actually subject to, which was very devastating, as you might know. But anyway, we're going to get started here in just a moment, and I would like for you to first have a quick look at the trailer for Bloodline, which we actually produced quite some time before the film was actually finished. So let's have a look at that trailer now.
Do you believe, or does the Priory believe or have evidence that Jesus married Mary and had children?
Yes.
Is there a bloodline of Jesus and Mary?
There is a bloodline of Jesus and Mary, yes. There is.
Il y a deux organisations, le Prieuré de Sion et l'Église catholique, l'Opus Dei.
Are you a member of the Priory of Zion?
Yes, I speak on their behalf.
They're in possession of information and artifacts that have never come to light before.
What if they really did produce the body of Jesus or evidence of Mary and Jesus' marriage?
She looks pregnant, right?
She does to me.
This thing is massive. There's a whole network of Masonic lodges with links to the Vatican, to the CIA. The bloodline idea is real, so don't think they won't kill you to keep it covered up.
Hey Bruce, it's me. We had your cell phone checked and they're pretty sure there's some sort of a bug on it.
Est-ce que toi, tu sens un danger?
Bruce, they know you're there. Do not go to that meeting tonight.
They claim they have a body, and that if this body is revealed, then it's incontrovertible proof.
Is Mary Magdalene buried somewhere on this map?
Tout à fait, bien sûr. Avec celui du Christ.
I feel that I'm being led to the fact that you have the body of Mary Magdalene.
C'est un sujet dangereux.
Don't ask me any more about that.
If it's all just a hoax, then who cares enough to tap my phone in a Paris hotel? Who cares enough to intercept emails?
You have to go up a bit, much further.
There's a tomb there.
Attention, en fait je suis trop chargé.
Here it is.
Where are the other guys?
Come in! Come in! Oh my god, it's a body.
Well, there you have the trailer. And now we're going to be asking James Martin, Night Vision historian, to ask away at any questions that he so desires. I have no idea what he's going to ask me, but I'll answer however, whatever I know. If I don't know, I'll say I don't know. But whatever I say will be the truth that I know to be. Hey, James.
Well, hi, everyone. Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. It's strange to be in the hot seat asking the questions as opposed to answering them, but I think this will be a good show.
I'm in the hot seat, not you.
Well, okay, fine. But I thought this segment, I was thinking, what could we call this segment? And I think we were talking about it at the end of the last time I was on, and I said that we should really do something like Renee Le Chat Show, as a play Rennes Le Chateau, and so here it is. Just firstly, I thought I would explain to some listeners my interest in the film Bloodline. And it stemmed really from an interest that I had all the way back in the late 90s, which stemmed from a graphic novel and which then became a computer game by Jane Jensen on the whole Rennes Le Chateau mystery. Now, this was before Da Vinci Code, and it was my sort of go-to place, my sort of hiding spot, where I would nestle through books and just really like a sponge, taking as much information as I could. And I found myself always longing for some answers, because really asking the questions and trying to find the answers, but people were asking the questions that I wanted to have asked. And of course, there was this buzz around this film that was explaining called Bloodline, that was expanding upon, of course, Dan Brown's Da Vinci Code, which sort of exposed my hiding spot and all of the rest of it. So I suppose if we were to look at this as David Copperfield, not the magician, but as the as the Dickens novel, I was born, I lived, I died kind of thing. Renee, how did the film start? I mean, what was it that made you think we need to do a film, or we need to do this? Was it after or before the Da Vinci Code?
Oh, it was well before the Da Vinci Code. It sort of developed out of a television show that I was working on, and it was called Places of Mystery. It was an American television series, and they asked me to produce an episode on the mysteries of Rennes Le Chateau, France. And I was pretty familiar, but not super familiar with it, because I had read back in 1982 the book by Bagent, Lee, and Lincoln called Holy Blood, Holy Grail. So that was my first sort of introduction to it. But when it came up in this series, I was eager to dive into it. And at one point, my executive producer, a woman by the name of Jane Sparango, said, we've got a producer that's working for us out of London that you should meet, because you guys have so many similar interests. And so she introduced me to Bruce Burgess, the UK film director and television producer. And we got into conversation. We really hit it off with our interests. And just so happened, he asked me where I was from originally, and I told him Oklahoma, and he got really excited because he was researching a story about Bigfoot, of all things, and it was set in Oklahoma. And so we did a documentary together. He asked me to produce it for him. And so we did this documentary together called Bigfootville, which aired for at least 12 years. And it's possible it could still be airing somewhere, but it was for about 12 years on the Travel Channel and was pretty widely seen. People kind of recognized that name. But all through the course of this, I was bugging Bruce, let's do this Rennes Chateau story. And he was saying, it's just too big. It's too big. And I said, well, let's just take a slice of the pie. Let's take just the Rennes Chateau Abbe Saunier story. And for those that may not know, there was a priest in this small, remote hilltop village of Rennes Chateau at the end of the 19th century. And he came into some fabulous wealth. It was rumored that he found treasure, that he found documents and other things that may be at odds with the stories, even some of the biblical stories that we've been told. So we decided we would do that we would just do this. We were going to do a feature film. Bruce was working at that time in Provence, France, producing a short film called Roast Beef. And he happened to be working with a French star called David Ginola, who was best friends with Johnny Depp. And so Johnny used to come to the set every day. And so, of course, I had these big, wild ideas about having Johnny Depp play Saunier. And I thought he could do such an amazing job because I see Saunier as kind of a complex and sort of a dark character in a lot of ways. So anyway, we started working on that. And then we were contacted by someone who was associated with Fox Studios, the movie studio. And they were interested in doing something on these subject matters. And they had been trying to contact Michael Bagent. And we said, oh, we know Michael. And so we got hold of Michael. We brought him to Los Angeles. And for about 6 months, we all worked on developing a series for Fox Studios on this subject matter, which was like a hybrid production of both dramatic or scripted and also reality or documentary. So it was a huge budget. I believe it was $29 million. And we couldn't believe, we were being put in charge of this giant budget and on the subject of our dreams. And so we went along. They kept saying, we'll start production in 2 weeks. Finally, right after Christmas, I get a call from our executive of Fox Studios with some really bad news that Gail Berman, the president of Fox Studios, had left and gone to Paramount. And all the projects that were under her purview at Fox Studios were then shelved, including ours. Of course, Michael Bagent was really not happy. He said, I'll never do anything with American television again. And I said, I don't blame him. But Bruce and I looked at each other and we said, well, what do we do? What are we going to do? We can't let this go. This is our passion. So I said, look, and we decided together, I don't remember. But in the end, what happened was we ended up raising our own funds and then did the movie ourselves. I mean, I spent every penny I had. And then, of course, a lot of friends and family invested in, and others as well. But particularly, our one of our executive producers, William Billingsley, who is a longtime childhood friend of mine, believed in us, or, he basically believed in me because we'd known each other. He knew my whole family. And he said, well, I might lose my money, but I know I'm not going to get screwed out of it. And I really appreciated that. And he really helped us, especially at the end when we were in post-production, which is very, very expensive. So anyway, we started this investigation, which actually went on about 5 years, which culminated then in the Bloodline film. But that's sort of how we got started. Oh, by the way, while I was trying to talk Bruce, we got to get started. I don't know what it was, because you know me, I don't claim to have any psychic abilities that anybody else doesn't have or anything like that. But I said, we've got to do this, and we've got to do it now, because something is coming regarding this, and it's going to be big. I don't know what it is, but it's going to be big. And he was like, oh, well, you know. So anyway, so next thing I know, he comes into the office in LA. We had offices. It was Blue Book Films offices in LA and in London. And he was in LA. He came into the office. He goes, oh, look, somebody gave me this book. And it's really, he goes, and I looked at it and I started going through it. I said, oh my God, Bruce, this is what I was saying. This is what was coming. This is what was going to be big. And it was the Da Vinci Code. So we got.
I've never heard of it, Renee.
Pardon?
Never heard of it.
Oh, no, it was only the bestseller at the time. Nobody's heard of it. Nobody's read it. But anyhow, so we, then we got moving.
So here we are. We've got this film that's beginning production, and we're talking 12, 13 years later. Mm-hmm. About this film that really, I was asked a question a few weeks ago, which was, there's someone who wants to get into the mysteries of the Ordre and Le Chateau, and what would you recommend? I obviously went for Tim Willis Murphy, but I said, despite some controversy with with this film, I'd recommend watching it. Now, what that says to me is there's another generation coming through, perhaps, are going to add their take and perhaps find some new things out about the mystery. But how would you describe the film Bloodline, in a succinct way, for that generation? How would you, quite advertise, but how would you explain what it is, what it's about? What's the summary of it?
Well, there were 4 supposedly factual statements that Dan Brown made on, I believe it was page 6 of the Da Vinci Code, where he said, fact, Jesus was married, had children, and there's a secret society called the Priory of Zion that's protecting this information. I'm not quoting, obviously, verbatim, but those were the ideas, and that's what we were already on. And our sort of raison d'etre was not to solve the mystery. We had no, idea that, we would really solve anything. But our whole purpose with creating this film, other than our own selfish interest in the subject, was to spark the conversation, spark it more, because there hadn't been anything really new on this subject that offered any information that was different than what we heard back in 1982 from the book Holy Blood, Holy Grail. I mean, even Dan Brown's book took from Holy Blood as well as some other books, but certainly he based a character on an amalgamation of the 3 authors of Holy Blood, Holy Grail. The character Lee Teabing was an amalgamation of Richard Lee, Michael Bagent, and Henry Lincoln. So, and of course, the character in the movie and in the book was a white-haired man that walked, with a cane and a limp, which of course very much resembled Henry Lincoln at that time. So, what we wanted to do was see, is there anything we can dig up, not really literally, but, of new information, something new to spark, the conversation, and maybe to, give some other researchers something to chew on. I mean, there are a lot of us out here that are totally enamored with this mystery and that are looking into it. And so we wanted to contribute to that. And that was our whole reason. So the idea was to try to find out whether we could prove anything about whether or not Jesus was married, which I know was insulting for some reason to a lot of people. But for me, I thought it was a wonderful idea, that I thought it was a great model, that he was in a loving relationship, and it made him more relatable to people, certainly to me. And but some people took offense to that. Other people, got all up in arms for other reasons. But
well, I remember Tim Wallace Murphy once saying to me while he was stopping with me that when he found that some of his books were being burned, in Rome, he knew he'd made it. And I said, the idea of burning books is arcane. But yeah, of course, it's the same with, I suppose in that way, it's the same with any film, isn't it? You're going to have people who like the film and people who absolutely, in the other way, sort of hate it. I just wanted to remind listeners as well, if you want to pose any questions, you can do so on the various comment streams, I think YouTube, Facebook, any other way, KGRA. We're going to later, before the close of the show, going to have a look for some good questions and field them over to Renee Barnett, who's answering questions this week, as opposed to asking them. But
it's easier to ask them than to answer some of these questions, I'm sure.
So, okay, so we've got the, answering some of the mysteries that have been presented in the book Holy Blood, Holy Grail. We've then got the Da Vinci Code, and we've got the 4 statements, are these correct? Just as an aside from this, I mean, what do you think, we talk about the mysteries of Rennes-le-Château and the priest, but for you, I mean, what does the mystery mean for you? What does this area mean for you?
Oh my, it's hard to really describe it. Mainly, first and foremost, I know that, once I came here, I knew I would be coming back. There is something about this place that draws you. For a few years, my dear friend, Gloria Amendola, who passed recently on Easter, and I used to bring tour groups down here. And Gloria continued on bringing tour groups down here even after that. And I would always tell people who were signing up for our tours, I got to warn you, this won't be the last time you go there. You will go back, whether it's on another tour, back on your own, whatever. But there's something here, and, and I'm not talking about a tangible treasure, although there very well may be tangible treasure here as well. I truly believe there once was, whether it's been moved, whether there's still things remaining here, as Nick Haywood, who purports to represent the Priory of Zion, says, and others. But there's something more than that, not least of which the energies in the area. In fact, the former mayor of Rennes-le-Château, when we interviewed him prior to doing Bloodline, we noted, on the church, the inscription on the church, which translated to "This place is terrible," and which I think actually means, this place is a place of awe. This place is awesome, because terrible didn't mean the same thing back in the day. And but we said, what about this? And he said, the real secret to Rennes-le-Château is not a treasure, and it's not in the church. He said, it's the telluric energy of the region. And what I have noted, including today, is that whatever emotions that you're feeling are somehow really magnified here. It's very strange, so if you're feeling happy, it's wonderful. If you're feeling sad, it's pretty rough, or angry, or, upset. So, there's so many things I could say. I mean, the beauty of the area is unbelievable. The history is just absolutely amazing. I mean, there are so many vestiges of the Romans, the Moors, the Templars. It's we don't have this in America. We live in a house that's 100 years old. That's ancient, And here, we have friends that are living in, 2,000 or 1,000-year-old houses. So it's.
Well, I can say, where I am, it's only 700-800 years old. So it's nothing. But I totally agree. The area you've got there.
I think I'm sitting on the old part because I'm downstairs and you're upstairs.
Certainly, I'm in the newer, just 600 years. Only 600. But I think we call it the energy of the area, and I think that's a lot of the beauty, the history, the tragedy, the happiness, all of the rest of it. And it absolutely does amplify. It's important to remain as grounded as you can in this area. It's an area of coincidence. It's an area of again great sorrow, but the history. I mean, the entire area is Disneyland for grown-ups. There's a castle on every peak. It's wonderful, and of course you've got some very entrenched beliefs that perhaps Jesus in fact married, had children, and came down here to the south of France. And it is a huge central part to the film. How did you go about selecting your guests then? Because you've got this huge history and you've got all of these different threads to this mystery. How did you find the guests, and what was the process behind that?
Well, we started out fairly early on with bringing Rob Howells on board as our senior researcher, our lead researcher, along with Nicole Daw, who's a very well-known and highly thought of researcher. She's worked on a lot of books that everyone's heard of, worked with a lot of authors. So we just started digging, and then that would lead us to the next piece, which would then lead us to the next person that we needed to talk with about it. For instance, our Tim Willis Murphy, we knew Tim already, and we knew of his knowledge about these subjects. And we knew what a great spokesperson that he was. And so naturally, we wanted to speak with Tim about his thoughts on this strange mystery of the area. And then Rob Howells, at that time, was the manager of Watkins Bookstore, which is I think it's the best well-known occult bookshop in the entire world, or at least it was at that time, and I don't know if it still is. But at that time, that's what he was doing, and they worked with a lot of antiquarian manuscripts and, writings of all kinds. And so he met this gentleman. He started noticing this gentleman who would come in and buy these manuscripts, sometimes for huge amounts of money, because they were very rare and very expensive. And he started to speak with him and realize that, there was some kind of connection he felt to this secret society called the Priory of Zion. And of course, that person turned out to be Nicholas Haywood.
So Renee, can I ask, just on the Priory of Zion, what are your thoughts on the Priory of Zion? What is it? I suppose you do explore this in the film, but for those who haven't seen the film, I mean, what is the Priory of Zion?
Well, what it purported to be, or what we felt it was, and possibly is sort of a loosely connected group of people that are in a secret society that are protecting certain information and also influencing others. We say there are no kings in the Priory, but there are kingmakers in the Priory. people that are behind the scenes, pulling the strings. There seems to be a huge relationship between the Priory and other secret societies and the intelligence agencies. And, I began to notice that, the Priory was using some similar tactics, especially in speaking with people, that were also used by the CIA and other agencies, probably MI5 and of that ilk. I realized that on our first meeting that he was using something called cognitive interview. And that's a technique by which you're speaking with someone and they are eliciting information from you and you don't even realize it. But because I'd had some training in that, or at least in what it was, I don't do cognitive interview, but training in recognizing it. I picked up on it, and and there were other things that, maybe a little darker things that sort of put you in the mind of, agencies doing secret assassinations and things like that.
And I think we'll come on to that, because there certainly was. I mean, you speak about intelligence services. I mean, without really leaving the parameters of Bloodline, the film, we do know the cerebral hemorrhage or stroke, synthetic poisons can certainly lead to that, and they are used by intelligence services and have been used for some time. The culpa spiring, for example, may have had some poisons at their disposal during the American Revolution, which you reminded me was on the 4th of July.
Sorry about that.
No, it was a spat. It's fine. We've moved on. Not bitter at all.
Where did all that tea?
Well, that was the thing that caused it, really. It wasn't the Stamp Act tax on knowledge. It was the fact that you poured tea away.
I mean, what wasted tea?
What on earth? It'd be crumpets next. But okay, so we've got this Priory of Sion that's in the background, and for those readers, watchers of the Da Vinci Code, the Priory of Sion features there. When you started interviewing, so you mentioned Tim Wallace-Murphy and these other interviewees, was there any hint? I mean, we'll come up to Nick Haywood shortly. Was there any suspicion that perhaps there was people watching from intelligence services or from the alleged Priory of Sion?
Well, we did have some. Oh, my hair. My bangs are in my eyes, and when I touch it, it goes the wrong way because I'm looking opposite. But anyway, we did have. We don't know where it came from, but we had our office swept for bugs, and they were found at our production offices in Los Angeles. We had people knowing where we would be that we hadn't told. We had people following us. There was a brake line cut. We had our hotel rooms in Paris bugged. How do you bug? But anyway.
So this isn't just the idea, the sort of prank. This is serious. This is someone's.
It was. But what was so crazy was we never thought once about not doing it. We never thought once about stopping. I mean, maybe if we'd have been smarter, we would have been afraid. But we were just so eaten up with what we were doing that nothing was going to stop us. But like you heard in the trailer, and as we know, and we're going to talk about later, there was a hoax involved. But if it was all a hoax, then why would someone go to the extent that they did to try to spy on us and try to stop us. It didn't seem congruent, with it was just all a bunch of baloney.
And I think the film is
one thing that you brought up a minute ago about the certain poisons that mimic a heart attack or stroke. The reason that came up for us was that we had been told by Nick Haywood that he had arranged for us to meet with Lord Patrick Litchfield, the cousin of the Queen, and also very famous photographer from the 1970s that people like me might remember. All the great big Afro models and Twiggy and Mick Jagger photographs and everything that we all saw. And in fact, I believe he photographed, I'm quite sure that he was the behind the scenes photographer at the Charles and Diana wedding.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah. Anyway, so we were going to go to his place at Shugborough Hall in the Midlands of England, and a lot of people have heard of mainly because of the statue work outside that has mysterious codes on it, and that's a replica in reverse of the Shepherds of Arcadia painting by Nicolas Poussin that figures so heavily into this mystery. So I was back at the office in Los Angeles. We had arranged for the meeting within the next week at Shugborough Hall. Bruce was in Paris, and I saw come across the news that Lord Patrick Litchfield was attending a garden party, and although he was in great physical shape, he just suddenly dropped dead. And so I called Bruce, and he was like, oh my God. So before we could get there, he died. And it was hinted to us that, and certainly not denied, that, that was one of these types of deaths. Now, I don't claim that. I don't know that. But what I'm saying is it was very weird, to have secured this meeting. And the meeting was supposedly where he was going to open up his archives to us to look through.
So this brings us really to Nick Haywood. I mean, how did you meet Nick Haywood? Who is he? Really, for those who aren't familiar. I mean, what part does Nick Haywood play within, not just Bloodline, but I suppose within the mystery at large?
Well, as I said, we met Nick Haywood through Rob Howells. He brought him to our attention, and he set up a meeting. And we met at a hotel in the Midlands, again, in the UK. I believe it was in September of 2005. And we didn't know, who we were meeting. I mean, Rob was the only one who had ever seen him before. And when he comes in, he says, I have 1 hour for you. And so we all sat down, and 6 hours later, set up because he found our questions engaging, and he could see that, we were serious researchers and that we were really digging, to find the truth. And we had already sort of sussed out enough on our own that he knew that, we were at least on a track toward.
And had he done any, to your knowledge, had he done any interviews like that before? Was he a known figure at the time, or a complete unknown?
I think, publicly he was unknown as in terms of the Priory. Now, he was the adopted son of Sir Harold Haywood, who was the person in charge of the Prince's Trust worked with Prince Charles. And, I've seen in fact, I have some of it at home, personal correspondence between Nicholas's father and Charles, and also letters that he wrote to Nicholas, that Prince Charles wrote to Nicholas after his father's, turned severely ill, and then at his passing, he sent his condolences. And so I would imagine that his father was certainly known in a lot of circles, unknown to me at the time, but no, Nick had never done any interviews before that. And
so just to recap where we are, we've had a look at the production, we've had a look at we're talking about the film Bloodline. For those not familiar with my voice, I'm James Martin. I'm the resident historian on Night Vision, and I'm in the seat asking questions to your host, Renee Barnett, who we're discussing a film that was produced. I think it was released in 2008, but it's taken 5 years to produce. Really, a film of two halves, but really focusing on some of the mysteries around the hilltop village of Rennes-le-Château. And for those of you who are currently watching this radio interview, you can see some of the images of the village of Rennes-le-Château and the Tour Magdala just appearing on screen, and some of the mysteries focus on the church within the village. Was there a bloodline of Jesus and Mary? And that's what we're discussing with Renee. And we're somewhat we're into the film, and we've got really one of the first interviews of that second half, and this is Nick Haywood. And so when the interview began with Nick, I mean, what was your thoughts of him? Did you think, is he someone that's credible, or what part does he have to play in this? What was his reason for wanting to do an interview about these mysteries?
Well, as he said in the interview, I mean, I can only say what he told us, was that we've been waiting for someone like you to come along. I don't, maybe some serious researchers, I don't know. I just don't know. But they decided, and he, purportedly had permission, or an agreement among his colleagues or peers in the priory to speak with us. Although he said that some were worried that he was a bit too congenial for the job, and so they worried a bit. I guess maybe that he would say too much, or get involved with us too much, or something like that. I'm not sure, but.
And was there anything he said to you that didn't make the final cut of the film? Was there anything revealed that didn't make the?
There was a lot of things, I mean, honestly, we have hours, of footage that did not make it into the movie. That was our huge challenge, was not what to put into the film, but what to leave out, because we've been filming for 5 years, basically. And so we had tons of things. The one thing that springs to mind is a little scary, and it's really been on my mind a lot this past year and a half or so, because he made not a prediction, but he told us that there was a coming event that would affect a large amount of the population. He called it a culling. And of course, our minds immediately went to an asteroid's going to hit the Earth, and kill a lot of people, things like that. And I know Bruce asked, will it be in our lifetime? And Nick said, yes, it will be in your lifetime. And I know after that interview, we were really troubled by it. Bruce was really troubled by it, which is kind of surprising because he's pretty kind of, like water off a duck's back kind of guy. But both Bruce and Rob were troubled by it. And, we kind of almost didn't want to delve into that because, it's coming and there's nothing we can do about it, And then, of course, when COVID began to really get its grip on the world and we started losing so many people, now millions worldwide, over 600,000 in my country alone, I began to think, oh my God, is this it? And I see in the comments here, Kathy, jumped the gun here and said, the pandemic, ?
Yeah.
Yeah, Kathy, that's exactly what I thought about, and, still do wonder about that. Was that it? And, there's been a lot of talk. I don't know if it's just conspiracy theory or what, that, the pandemic was allowed to run rampant on purpose, to decrease the population and things like that. So I won't get into all that, but that's what I thought of. But that was the thing that jumps out at me that he told us. I mean, and you got to remember too, I was communicating with Nicholas Haywood for years afterwards. I mean, we emailed pretty much every day. And then, on some of our tours that Gloria and I did, he joined us and, spoke with our group and things like that. So,
and do you still keep in touch with him today?
No, not really. Unfortunately, I don't think he's well. And the last few times that I reached out to him by email, the responses I got were obviously not written by him. So I think there's a gatekeeper now or something. And then, because I suspected, that it wasn't him. I mean, I knew it wasn't. But just to be sure, I asked questions that I knew that only he and I would know the answer to. And I would never get a response to those questions. So I think the person that was speaking didn't know the answers.
You got me thinking about all sorts of things. If the Priory of Zion exists, have they allowed other pandemics to play out and all of the rest of it? But it was you once told me a story, so I can't remember if this was in the film or we've just spoke about it privately, where you would often do that. You would often send an email or a text message with a question that only the other person could understand. I don't think it met the film, but you know the story that I'm referring to, I think.
Yeah.
So do you want to just explore that and what had happened? It wasn't with Nick, it was with Bruce.
No, we don't know who it was. But, it's kind of funny because, okay, how am I going to phrase this? All right. In, like S&M, bondage and all that kind of stuff, how like in 50 Shades of Grey, how people say they have a safe word.
Yeah, Renee, can I just interrupt and say, when I woke up this morning, I didn't expect the story to take that left at the traffic lights. Yes, you know S&M, don't you?
But anyway, so you always hear that people say, they have a safe word, and that means you're supposed to stop whatever you're doing because it's too intense or whatever, not that I would know personally. But anyway, so Bruce and I had this thing, and we called it our safe word, because we hadn't been tapped, we had been spied on. And so sometimes I, wanted to make sure that I was talking to who I was talking to. Anyway, one night, Bruce was down here in Southwest France. Again, I was back at the office in Los Angeles, but I was actually at home. It was at night. And Bruce and I, this is how long ago it was, we were talking to each other on AOL Messenger, whatever that was called back then.
Wow.
Anyway, yeah. And so we were on AOL. And, Bruce was down here, and he was with Ben Hammett, who we're going to talk about much later, who was going to take him to show him this tomb that he had discovered. And so they were going to go out in the middle of the night because they didn't want to reveal the location, and people were always tracking us, so they were trying to be secretive about it. And Bruce and I were chatting on AOL about they were getting ready to go out. And then suddenly, it like the text message sort of skipped a few lines and then said something else. And then I was talking for a minute, and I thought, this seems like a different person. And so I said, and then they said, what's the safe word? And I went like, oh my God, because Bruce never asked me. Only I asked him what the safe word was. And I thought, whoever it is, and I could tell. And so, not thinking of anything else, I just ran off a string of profanity. It had some meaning because it was a line from a movie, a very silly movie called Snakes on a Plane. So I just threw out that line, and then I think they realized that I was on to them, and they said, they just wrote, thank you, we will be in touch. And I just sat back in my chair and think, oh my God, who's we? And then all of a sudden, Bruce is back, and he says, I said, what was that all about? And he said, what? And he said, I got bumped off like 5 minutes ago. And I told him, I cut and pasted it and showed him. Actually, I didn't tell him online. I actually picked up the phone and called him and said, don't go. And it's in the film because he recorded it. Oh, you're there. Do not go, And so they didn't go. But to this day, I have no idea who it was. It could have been just some weird hacker, screwing with us, pardon the French. But
probably not the right phrase given the S&M stuff. Just a reminder as we come into the
long time, Jay.
We're coming to the top of the hour. Just a reminder, if anyone has any questions, I'm going to pose them. Kay Bow has asked a great question. I will be asking Renee it just later today. If you want to find out a bit more, we are working on a website that's going to have Bloodline, the film, on it, available for you to purchase and stream online, and that's at newrennies.org, which for those who are watching radio, which sounds very weird to say, the web address is just below, so that's newrennies.org. So as we come to the top of the show, I mean, just very quickly, Renee, why do you think they were bugging you? I mean, what do you think they were up to? What were they trying to to do by this frighten you, or what were your thoughts now looking back?
I mean, honestly, it's pretty much as puzzling to me now as it was then, except for the fact that, it went on, in so many different ways for so long that, I was no longer surprised by anything that happened. But initially it was strange and it just seemed absurd. I mean, little old us, why is anybody going to, be looking into what we're doing? We're just documentary filmmakers and researchers. We're nobody. And it was fun, to us at the time, to think that anyone would be that interested. And honestly, I will say this, now it's coming back to me, that at the time we thought it might be, like jealous researchers or, like, not that they had anything to be jealous about, but it's just that, there was a buzz about what we were doing. There was interest because people were hungry for new information or something new, to chew on and to research, to debunk, to prove true, whatever it was, to lead them further in their own research, whatever. But
and I think that appetite's very much still there. If not, it's much more hungry. After the break, just a short break, we'll be looking at, and I know you guys have been waiting for me to get to it, Ben Hammett. Also, we'll be having a look at the treasures of Venn-le-Chateau, the intelligence, primary science. So stay with us, everyone. Been great having you. See you after break.
Hey members, the new KGRA DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA DB.
I don't want to talk about it.
I don't want to talk about it.
Families don't have to talk about everything, but they should talk about how to plan for an emergency. Get tips and resources to make your family's emergency plan.
Welcome to the new KGRA digital broadcasting website, thekgradb.com. Here you'll find great new content, including the KGRA Classics, great shows from our archives. You'll be able to see the show times and information so you can see what show is currently on air. The On Air Live button, so just go to this section and you'll be able to hear the show live with exceptional sound quality. We also have the Vault section. Make sure to subscribe to get access to great content and special features. We have the make content for our latest news and events, so make sure to sign up and you can be part of our forum. So make sure to check out the new KGRA digital broadcasting website, thekgradb.com. We look forward to seeing you there, and we hope that you enjoy the new website.
Welcome back, everyone. You're listening to Night Vision with Renee Barnett. You've probably gathered I'm not Renee Barnett, but we've decided that we're going to, this week, reverse roles. I'm James Martin. I'm the historian on Night Vision, and I'm asking questions to Renee about her film Bloodline. Just before the break, we're discussing Nick Haywood. For those who've seen the film, you'll know that phones were bugged and they were tapped. But I just wanted to really start this second hour with a bit of a memory to those who were involved in the film who are no longer with us. So Renee, there was a number of people in the film who really contributed, whether it's research, historians, to the film. Who were those people and what did they mean to you?
Oh my goodness. I'd like to, first mention the people that were involved in the film that are no longer with us. It's hard to imagine that we've lost so many. But, and selfishly, I wanted to also mention that, I lost my daughter on the first day of actual production of the film. And so that's why, you see the dedication at the film to my daughter. And, then of course, we've lost, our Tim Wallace Murphy, who was a great friend over the years and very knowledgeable, outstanding person. Our wonderful DP, our director of photography, Edward Flaherty, who was also our translator. He's an American who lived in Paris for a number of years, and he's now gone as well. And also Tracy Twyman, who we interviewed in the film, passed away tragically. I'm trying to remember if it was last year. I think you saw something about the date on that, James. But she's now gone. And when was that, James?
So that was on the 9th of July, I believe, 2019. So we're 2 years, depending upon where you're listening, 2 years ago, 2 years in a day.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, behind the scenes was one of my dearest best friends who I considered my sister, and that's Gloria Amendola, who supported me and supported the film and promoted the film and had my back to her final day. So we lost her suddenly and unexpectedly on Easter Sunday, just this year, not long ago. So these are all the people that have now gone. Oh God, I hope I haven't forgotten anybody. If I have, I apologize to the loved ones of those people. But there are also a few other people that I would like to mention who worked so diligently and who were so honorable throughout the entire sequence of events. And that was, again, researcher Nicole Daw, Robert Howells, Sandy Hamlet, who you saw in the film, as well as Rob, who also did a lot of research and got her heart broken at the end of the situation. And also our dear beloved assistant, Rob Wood, who was totally supportive through everything and worked really, really hard. One of our producers, Eric Mazer, who is a very successful television producer, executive producer. He's got different series on television right now in America. And also our line producer, James Beaton. So, some of you know some of those people, some of you don't, but I felt compelled to mention those people because they were integral to the whole process. And I'm grateful to every one of them to this day.
Yeah, really a large cast of people. I remember, seeing Tim. We're going to play a clip from. I don't think all of it made the final cut, but towards the end of the show, we're going to show you, for those who haven't heard the clip of Tim just at the end of the show. So, Renee, you're in hotels. Bruce is in hotels. He's traveling around. Just very quickly, if anyone wanted to do a pilgrimage of sight for Bloodline, where would they end up? What places did you film at?
Well, of course, we filmed all over Rennes-le-Château area, the village itself, and in other areas. When you see us or the crew in lodgings here in the region, they were sitting right here in Esperanza, where you and I are sitting at Maison de Chapelier, run by our now friends, Andy and Lou. And we would all stay together. They had a gîte in addition to their B&B. So we would rent out the whole gîte that had, several bedrooms, and we would all stay together. So we all got really close on the production, living together for a lot of time. But that's where we were. And then I'm trying to recollect all the things. We filmed in London at the Gore Hotel. That's where we interviewed, for one, Tim Wallace-Murphy. We interviewed Nicholas Haywood in the Midlands. You don't really see any of that in his interview. The location in that interview wasn't really relevant to show. Gosh, you put me on the spot. I believe that one, there's one scene in the film where Bruce meets up with Ben Hammett's brother, and I believe that was here in Esperanza at a different location. Maybe you recognized it, James, where they were on a bridge and all that stuff and walking around. Oh, golly. You tell me where we filmed. I don't remember anymore.
Lots of places. If you were coming to this area and wanted to restep the areas, if you wanted, Esperanza, Alet-Laban, obviously Rennes-le-Château, Limoux, lots of places, all with their own history. So, Renee, let's focus on just one of those places. Let's keep on Rennes-le-Château, shall we? So, Rennes-le-Château, you've got the mystery of the priest, lots of money. I have my own thoughts on that. And when it came to filming, it's apparent to me that the first half of the film is lots of questions and interviews, and then the second part of the film, and I think there was a gap in filming. It takes a different path. Just before we get on to that, so we're heading towards Ben Hammett and other artifacts and all of this. If Ben Hammett hadn't arrived on the scene, where do you think the film would have ended up?
Oh, I think we've talked about this before, and it's hard to say because we went off in that direction. And if you like, I can explain, sort of how that came to happen. We had a friend who was a sort of diver, treasure hunter type guy, and he emailed or called me and directed my attention to this website called The Tomb Man. And so I went on it, and there was these pictures of like the inside of a tomb and everything. But frankly, both Bruce and I said, that looks like a set. It doesn't look real. And so we said, well, before we dismiss it out of hand, and if it is a hoax, then we'll expose it. But before we dismiss it out of hand, let's send Edward down there to check it out. Edward, as I mentioned, lived in Paris. We were over in the United States, way over on the West Coast. So it was easier for us to send down Edward to check things out. And he spent some time exploring around the area with Ben Hammett. They found some things while Edward was with them. And he called us up breathlessly saying, "Oh my God, you guys have got to come over here. You got to come down here." And so we then decided, well, we'll check out this guy for ourselves. And we made arrangements to meet him in London. And that was, the same trip that we actually met Nicholas Haywood on. But we met Ben at another researcher's home, Bill Kersey, who was a friend of Ben's, in London. And he had stacks and stacks of maps and research and photos and videos and all kinds of things. I mean, it was pretty incredible. And we were like, wow, and the more we looked at, the more, it appeared to us that, he was onto something. So we decided to, explore it further. And, we didn't fall hook, line, and sinker from the beginning, although we ended up there. And we got to know Ben. He was a very friendly guy and funny, and definitely knew a lot about the area, about the mystery. Had spent lots and lots of time down here. And what I connected with him on at that time, other than the mystery, was the fact that I had just lost my daughter, and his son, who was a teenager, was dying of terminal cancer at the time. So I was very much in support of him, because even though he hadn't accepted yet that his son was going to die, from everything I was hearing, I could see it just didn't look good. And I had the terrible feeling that he was going to be going through the same thing that I would, which was, obviously the worst thing.
And so I know I said that I wouldn't bring this up, but I think it's worthwhile just to explain to those listening that whilst you're doing this film, this project, long hours, research, speaking to other people, whilst you're going through all of that, you're also going through the one thing that no parent should ever have to go through, and that's the death of their own child.
Well, I'm supposed to go first, not her.
And so, do you think there was a sort of reach out then to Ben, who was going through something like that, and that helped, or in terms of building a relationship, a rapport, that kind of thing?
Oh, I do. I think, it probably made me a little more vulnerable to be taken in, and it was, I mean, I believed him, and I guess, how you hear, and I know there's a saying, and it's a quotation, and I can't remember who said it first. I never can, but it's that a thief thinks that every man is a thief. Well, I think that's true the other way around too. If you're basically an honest person, especially at a time like that, you don't expect someone to be dishonest. Right. You're not looking for that, and so I think, I was a little more gullible than I normally would have been. And but having said that, Bruce also believed him. And I know people, even people on Facebook today were trying to, put down Bruce and saying he knew it was hoax. I don't have any problem with criticizing Bruce, not at all. But where it's due, not where it's not true. I know he totally believed Ben. And there's a lot of reasons that I know that, especially for things that happened subsequently, but which just take too long to explain. But I'm going to tell you right now that Bruce Burgess did not perpetrate the hoax. Nor did I, nor did Sandy Hamlet, nor did Edward, nor did anybody else but that one person. And we can talk more about that hoax whenever you're ready. But
well, let's hit it on the head. I do want to ask a question that's a bit left field. So we just before we went for break, we were talking about phones being bugged, tapped, and all of this. We're sort of skipping ahead with this question, but was there any, looking back, do you think, the resources that were needed to perpetrate what Ben Hammett did in the film, which is, for those who haven't seen the film, I should say haven't seen the film yet, but if you haven't seen the film, these are glass vials with parchments littered around the area of Rennes-le-Château. They accumulate in a chest of genuine artifacts, but again, wouldn't be the first person to allege the contents of a chest, being genuine, and the story in the background and all of this. The amount of resources needed for that must be substantial. Do you, given the phone tapping and the bugging, do you think there's any suggestion that Hammett could have been working for intelligence himself?
Well, I don't know. It certainly has been suggested that he was working for or with somebody. Maybe for those that haven't seen the film, we should sort of explain what was actually the hoax. We had been led to this website, met Ben Hammett, who was calling himself the Tomb Man, which is also, Ben Hammett is an anagram and vice versa for further. And so we gave him a camera that was on a long pole because the supposed tomb was inside of a mountain and there was just a small opening. So we bought special equipment and everything to film it. And at the very last minute, he wouldn't even let us see the site. He says, no, I'm going to go in and film it. Bruce waited out on the road. It was in the middle of the night. They did this filming. He brings the film back, and it's, inside this tomb area. And it looked like that's what he did. He went in, he got this film, and he came back out. And so the film, the inside the tomb were what looked like a body covered with a shroud with a red cross on it. There were some other artifacts in there. There was a bag with, I believe, a Solomonic star on it. There were some other items. There was this book that looked very, very old, very thick, very dusty, sitting there that, I was particularly excited about because maybe that would have given us some more information. The other items were interesting, but, you could get so much more out of words. So I was very excited about that. Aside from the tomb, he went out with the group, sometimes with our crew and sometimes not, and found other things like bottles buried in the area with notes inside or a map inside. And then he found this chest and, oh my goodness, I'm forgetting the actual name of the cave, but it's commonly known in modern times in this milieu as the Cave of the Magdalene. Found this chest. We had all the items dated. The box was actually dated to, the 1800s, mid to late 1800s, which would have sort of fit the Saunier story, the priest, coming across something buried and hiding it himself. And inside this chest was a pottery cup or a bowl, and a vial with a note, and an unguentarium, which is a little pottery jar, which was used to perfume dead bodies in tombs back in, first century Jerusalem. And so there was a note that said, "The cup of Jesus and Mary." And honestly, I can't remember what else the note said, but it was talking about the objects in there. So that was pretty exciting because at least they were what they purported to be in terms of date, timing, authenticity, and location. That really did come from Jerusalem. This really did come from there. The chest, dated to the right time. So that's what that was all about. There was a tomb. There were other items found buried in the region. So that's what we're talking about when we're talking about items and artifacts that were purportedly found by Ben Hammett.
Why do you think then he went to such an extreme to undertake this hoax? And also, just further to that, something I'm completely unaware of, how did the hoax get exposed?
Oh, okay. Well, he certainly didn't come clean on his own. The movie had been released. It was getting a lot of, pretty nice critical acclaim, from the movie critics and others. There was a real buzz surrounding it. We, did a limited theatrical release in about 15 U.S. cities, and the theaters were always full and packed. And we were, well after that. And actually, I had come over with a tour group with Gloria Amendola. And I know we were here like late in the year, October. And I remember it being really cold. And we had, invited Ben Hammett on our tours, to take people to the sites where he found things and, pertinent sites in the story and in his research. And so at this time, Bruce and I had a complete falling out over the Bloodline movie. And what it was really over was, and this is how I know, another reason that I know that he really believed that tomb was there, was because he wanted to push Ben to reveal the tomb. We were going to film it and do an add-on. Plus, we had received a commission from Nat Geo, the National Geographic Channel, to do a film excavating the tomb. I went over and visited with the head of the DRAC, Monsieur Marchesi, and to get permission to excavate. I mean, Ben Hammett sat here in Esperanza and let me go and put my behind on the line with the French government, with the head of the DRAC, which is the department that's over, antiquities and archaeology and all that, discoveries, who reports directly to the president of France. He let me go over and expose myself, and lie basically to the French government. Unfortunately, I didn't know I was lying, but I was, because I was misinformed. Anyway, so I'm so sorry. I forgot where I was headed. I got so sidetracked and angry about letting me go to the French government.
Well, understandably, I was just asking, why do you think he did this? Why do you think he perpetrated this?
Right.
Firstly,
but you asked me, how it came out.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, of course, there were people all the time, naysaying and, people calling it a hoax before it ever came out, or before anyone even knew what was in it, you know. And so, you know, we were kind of used to that. But then I'm not sure, someone was getting ready to expose him, and he found out about it. And so I got an email one day, and I had begun by this time to really doubt him, because as I was saying, I was over here in October, and he told me, because he knew that Bruce and I were on the outs, that he was perpetrating a hoax on Bruce and telling him that he had discovered the Ark of the Covenant buried down here. And so Bruce got funding privately behind my back and came down and tried to excavate the tomb on his own, because I refused to go against Ben because his son had just died. And I said, you can't push him right now. He just lost his baby. You know, we've got to give him a year to get over this. I'm telling you. And so he went behind my back. He got funding and he came over. And to me, that proves that he really thought it was real. Otherwise, why would he be doing that? You know?
Yeah.
He tried to expose that. And then later, Ben tried to hoax him again. He didn't pull it off, really, to my knowledge, although I think there was some money that exchanged hands. But anyway, someone else was getting ready to expose Ben. And one day I get this email, and he said, it was from Ben, and he said, I have something to tell you when you're ready to hear it. And instantly, I knew that he was going to tell me that it was all a hoax, because I had been questioning him of late. And, because he was planning on hoaxing Bruce on the Ark of the Covenant, I thought, well, he's a hoaxer, And then, of course, I didn't even know at the time that he'd already hoaxed the Loch Ness Monster, tried to hoax the Loch Ness Society and almost got away with it. But, they discovered the hoax. They discovered the wetsuit. They discovered all kinds of things. And I actually somewhere have a clip of Ben Hammett's fake Loch Ness Monster footage that somehow we got hold of. And, I think it was on an old drive or something. I'm going to have to look to see if I still have it, because I would love to, post it. I would have loved to have it here. But anyway, so I answered him, I'm as ready as I'll ever be. And just tell me this, how much of it was a lie? And he wrote back and said, all of it.
So
died.
Just to remind those listening or those who are watching, we're going to open up for some further questions and answers. So if you want to post in the comment section any questions for Renee, why do you think he did this? What was he getting out of it, I suppose? I mean, why would you go to such an extreme to do this?
I think he was doing it for attention and because he thought he would get a lot of money in the end. For being famous, and then he could sell his books and do all kinds of things. I mean, then there's that other idea that he was working with someone. Now, I do know, or at least I think I know now, that the skeleton that was underneath the shroud, which, I mean, I had anthropologists, look at, and they thought it was a real skeleton. Of course, they only saw the images, as we did, but they thought it was a total old skeleton. And so anyway, that I'm going off on a tangent here, but
So,
he just hoaxed everything. And so later it came out, or at least I think I know now, that he had the help of a special effects guy in London, a model builder, and that tomb was actually set up inside a warehouse. So it wasn't even inside a cave or a mountain in England.
On a set.
Yeah, it was on a set. It was in a warehouse where they shot it, And now, special effects guys make a lot of money. So I'm not sure why that guy did it, unless he was just kind of interested, or maybe he did get paid. The other thing I know is that Ben Hammett at that time had just recently sold a pub that he owned. And so he had some cash. So I don't know whether he used the funds from that, to buy the artifacts. I just don't know.
Renee, so the effect of this must have been significant. The Hammett hoax and all of this.
Oh my God.
What was you filmed with, it's not just you and Bruce, but there's interviews with many people. We've mentioned Tim, there's people behind the scenes, Gloria, we've met, all of these people. Firstly, what was the effect on you and Bruce, and what was the effect of this hoax then on the others?
Well, actually, I wasn't talking much to Bruce when the hoax came out. We communicate now, but I didn't talk to him for 8 years. So I can only speak for my own reaction, and it was devastation. I was devastated, and I was embarrassed that I was taken in. I began to doubt my ability to judge character, which I had sort of prided myself on. I thought I was a really good judge of character. And, then of course it ended up, because of the hoax, that's how, Bruce and I ended up arguing and splitting up our company. And so basically, I kind of lost everything at that time. I put every penny I had into it. Oh, that was a Loch Ness. I put every penny I had in, and it's pretty devastating, because by this time, I considered Ben a personal friend. I really did. And I just felt really awful, that it was coming from someone who I thought was a friend, and he had so many opportunities over the years to come clean, and he didn't. And he just let me get ruined when I was defending him. That's how I felt about it. People like Tim and others, immediately came to my defense and, felt like I really got the raw end of the deal. And I think a lot of people might have thought that Bruce knew that there was something amiss, but he didn't. I know he didn't, and Sandy Hamlet, who was a researcher, and she worked with Ben Hammett, she was totally gutted and never spoke to Ben again after that. She's taken a lot of flack because people said she was in on it. She wasn't. I know she wasn't. I'll defend her to my dying day on that. the other people, I think they felt bad for us, felt bad for me and Bruce that worked on it. I didn't get any flack from anybody that was really involved in the film. And Gloria, of course, was hopping mad at Ben. So she was going to jump to my defense and did. And, when people would mention the movie and somebody would say, oh, it's just a hoax. And she would always defend our integrity and also, the truth in the film. It wasn't all about Ben Hammett. It was almost like two separate films. There was sort of the first half that was our primary investigation, and then there was sort of the second half that was us investigating the tomb.
And I think that's a good point. I mean, we can dwell when I've discussed Bloodline with others, it's a hoax, and read Holy Blood, Holy Grail. There's a lot of mistruths in that, and that's a quote from Henry Lincoln, by the way.
Right.
But you don't think of that book in that way. So, okay, we coming sort of full circle. Just a few questions. Then we're going to show that clip of Tim again. Just a reminder: any questions, please post them. I will ask Renee just towards the end of the show. So, if somebody is, I don't know, looking on the New Rennie's website, for example, newrennies.org, and is toying with the idea of watching the film, would you still recommend watching the film? And if so, why? What do you think people can still get out of that?
I'm recommending that they watch the film if they want to watch the film. I've had a lot of people, ever since the film became no longer available, you can't really get it anywhere unless maybe on occasion somebody might be selling their copy on eBay or Amazon. So people keep asking for it, and I would say watch it if you want. Don't watch it if you don't want to. I think there's a lot in there. I think people will recognize, a lot of the story, a lot of the information. As I said, it's almost two films. It's almost, certainly, the entire first half. I still highly recommend. And I also recommend the second half just because, you can see what we saw and, be your own judge at why you think that Ben perpetrated this hoax. Honestly, I think it was for money. I think it was going to make money, but it could have been other darker reasons. There might have been others involved. I don't know. That's for other people to judge.
And I think it's worthwhile watching the second part of the film. There are a lot of people, not so much now, but there are a lot of people in this area who have artifacts of Sonia, of varying ages. And it can be very easy to be drawn into these objects, even though they may have been bought at the local gift shop, for €1.99 kind of thing. So it's very easy to get drawn in, and I think a lot of people do anyway with the mystery of the priest. For example, I just thought I'd mention this. Some rumours that people have accepted as fact. Sonia built a water tower at the top of the village, paved the way up, and well, for those council workers in the 1920s and in the 1950s, I think they'd be a bit disappointed to think that after doing all of that work on one summer's day, that back-breaking, very sweaty work to find out it was the priest. It wasn't. So there are a lot of mysteries in the area, and I think watching that second part really can show that it's very easy to be drawn into this mystery. It's also very easy to be drawn much further in, even if it ends up in a sort of cul-de-sac, if you will.
Fair, I still hear from people who really believe that the tomb is real and that Ben Hammett was, paid off to keep it quiet, paid off by the Vatican, paid off by, and I mean, as crazy as that sounds, I mean, we were when we were in New York with the premiere of the film, we made the rounds, media rounds, and one morning, Bruce did some early morning talk show on one of the networks in New York. I think it might have even been Fox. And they had on this priest, who was spokesperson for the Catholic Church. And he got really weird, and saying, you're walking in dangerous territory, you don't know what you're getting into, or something like that. And the camera person turned to me and said, did he just threaten you? And I said, I don't know. And so it was very weird, though. And he got very out of sorts about it. And I wrote him later and said, were you threatening us? And he goes, oh, no. I was just saying, you'll be wrong, and, it won't be good for your television career. And I thought, oh, yeah, you really care about that.
Well, that reply sounds like a threat in itself. There are obviously people who take this mystery very seriously. The Vatican, the people who are in, whether or not the Priory of Sion existed for as long as they propose, it certainly exists today. There are people who take this very seriously.
Someone's just, Kathy has just posted a comment. Synchronicity, the Da Vinci Code is on TV right now.
Well, what are you going to listen to? The Da Vinci Code or this? Or, I don't know, maybe both. So, just as we're coming up to the end of the show, my last question really, or perhaps one of my last questions is, if you were to, you've gone through this experience for better or for worse, what questions, what are the three questions, Renee, that haven't been answered or that you would like to explore?
Well, of course, I'm very curious about, some of these secret societies that, supposedly have information that's been held from the public. And that, to me, includes the Vatican secret archives. I don't know who put them in charge of knowledge, that should be available to everyone. But I mean, I would love to just further explore the secrets of this area and the true history of this area. And I don't think I would get sidetracked again by a hoaxer. I just really don't. And, you've done so much amazing research, both on the ground and scholarly research, from your own personal studio and library that, we're now looking into some things, as you know, that have not yet been made public and that people don't know about. As many times as I was here, that I've been here, since 2004, I've been coming down. And as many times as Gloria was here, she nor I had ever come across some of these sites that we are now looking into because of some of your discoveries that you found that come up in weird ways, like in property records and things like that. Who left what to whom? Who sold what to whom? Certain artwork, different things, and different heretical images in Catholic churches in the region that just shouldn't be there.
Shouldn't be there. Yeah. That's it.
There's so much more to explore here.
Sonia the traitor, the Gemma Boulanger, the Royalists, the Habsburgs, the Habsburgs have been done before.
I'm going to have to say one thing really quickly. I don't know if we have time, but the Habsburgs, I did promise someone that I was mentioning the Habsburgs. The Habsburgs have been known historically to come down and have dealings in this region, and I know that, the current head of the Habsburg family is Karl von Habsburg. At the time we were doing Bloodline, it was his father, Otto, who has since passed away. But I actually corresponded with Karl von Habsburg and asked him why his relatives, particularly his grandfather, had interest in this area, and told him what I was working on. And so he actually wrote me back. And he said, oh, my grandfather was there to study the methods of irrigation. I thought, okay. But he said, but I'm very interested in what you're doing, and I would love to, know what you turn up. And I think the next time, I had written him a letter through the post, and he answered me via email. And the next time I wrote him back, the email was no good. But it had been a good email because I did check on the official website.
So perhaps if for those who are interested in gardening, the Holy Grail could actually just be a plant pot. But yeah, so there's so many sites in this area. We've got the banning of singing and dancing by the Bishop of Narbonne in 590 AD. You've got no mask wearing. There's
which brings us to current when other people are not letting people wear masks.
Well,
we went into that.
Do you know? I was commenting when we went round Al at the Ban. A few days ago, that he banned wearing masks. So actually, the former bishop of Al-Ban might be the first, anti-masker.
Yeah.
We've got a clip of Tim Wallace-Murphy coming up, but I just wanted to ask one question, which just very very brief. From K-Bo. Hi, K or K-Bo. Who wants to know, will there be a Bloodline 2?
I mean, I would absolutely love it. I'd love to do it, but not if I have to raise the funding myself this time. If someone were interested in seeing a follow-on to the film, I would be all over it. But I had to raise, pretty much every penny for that film, which over the course of years, we spent about $2.1 million on it. And as I said, a lot of that came from friends and family, from myself, and I just wouldn't want to do that again. If someone's interested in seeing it and, want to fund it, want to do a GoFundMe and raise the money, I don't want anything to do with that part. I would be happy to involved in the creative and, actually the production of the film. So, that's sort of the answer to that.
So listeners, if the treasure turns out to be gold, if you do find it, just a little towards Renee, and there might be.
Oh yeah. Well, if you look at treasure in this area, you are entitled to money for it, for its worth. Half of it goes to the owner of the property, and half of it goes to the discoverer. So I think that's why there's been a lot of digging going on for years.
No more digging at Rennes Le Chateau. Look, there's so much more we could be, so much more to say, and so much footage that hasn't made it out as well. Perhaps there could be a compilation of that in the future. Who knows? But for everyone else, a little treat for everyone. Here is Tim Wallace-Murphy, one of the deleted scenes, non-aired scenes from Bloodline. Enjoy, everyone.
I gave a talk about Rosslyn Chapel here in London in 1994, and I announced at that talk that I was going to Jerusalem and I hoped to get permission to go into the tunnels under the Temple Mount. And after the talk, I was approached by a gentleman called Michael, an elderly Englishman, who told me to look out for certain carved signs and symbols in the tunnels. And I said, well, how do you know about this? And he said, rather startlingly, that he was a direct descendant of Hugh de Payne, one of the founders and the first Grand Master of the Knights Templar. I later was able to substantiate his claims. And he told me a story that European nobility and royal families had been permeated by a series of bloodlines who claimed descent from the 24 high priests of the Temple of Jerusalem, and that these people had preserved a totally different version of the teachings of Jesus to that put out by the Catholic Church and the later Christian churches who sprang from that. A story that said Jesus did not come to die on the cross to redeem us from sin, but to reveal a spiritual pathway of initiation leading to sacred knowledge or gnosis, a stream of Gnosticism that, if the story were true, could be traced back not merely to Israel, but back to Egypt. I spent some 8 or 9 years investigating this story and seeing how I could substantiate it. And in 2000, myself and my collaborator Marilyn Hopkins published a book which we called Rex Deus, The True Mystery of Rennes Le Chateau and the Dynasty of Jesus. When the book was published, I received a letter on some rather impressively headed notepaper, and it was very terse, and it had me worried. It said, "Dear author, I wish you'd contacted me before you rushed so precipitately into print. We'd better talk, or better yet, meet." Now, I was quite concerned because there'd been gaps in our research which we couldn't verify, and we'd filled those gaps with our own rather extensive knowledge of medieval and biblical history. And I was concerned in case we got something wrong. So I rang this gentleman and introduced myself. And after a few minutes' conversation, I said, well, Professor, where did we go wrong? He said, "Oh, you didn't, dear boy, it's just incomplete. Do you want the rest?" Well, is the Pope a Catholic? Of course I wanted more. So I was invited round to visit him for a weekend with my collaborator, Marilyn Hopkins, and we were given very strict instructions to arrive before dusk on a Friday. Now, my mother was Jewish, so the alarm bells started to ring. We duly did as we were instructed, and when we saw the dining table with the armulkas laid beside the plate and the menorah, I knew we were in for a shock, because this gentleman bears a very proud Scottish name that goes back for over 9 centuries. And yet the meal was a proper Sabbath meal. And the prayers were said in Hebrew, which gave me an indication that here was somebody who was living his beliefs, not merely talking about them. As a result of the investigations that followed that weekend, we published yet another book called Custodians of Truth, which traces this line of initiatory teaching, not merely back to biblical Israel, but through the life of the people of Israel back to ancient Egypt. And it is an initiatory teaching of Gnosticism, which, of course, Holy Mother the Church regards as outright heresy.
So there is a bloodline?
Yes. Oh, very definitely. There is a bloodline, and there is a bloodline within the bloodline. Within the wider group of the Rex Deus families, there is also a group known as the Desposini, who are the descendants of the Master, the man known as Jesus the Nazarene. Not Jesus of Nazareth, because Nazareth didn't actually exist at the time of Jesus. The Nazareans were an initiatory sect, an offshoot of the Essenes, and Jesus was one of their principal teachers.
Was he divine?
In the sense that we are all children of God, yes. Was he God? No, and he never claimed to be. He never even claimed the nominal title of Son of God, which any holy man in the Israeli tradition could have claimed. I mean, King David himself was referred to as a son of God. But that does not mean a son in the paternal filial sense. It means a pupil of God, a highly developed pupil of God, an initiate of the Gnostic streams. Jesus was as human as you or I. And by deifying him, the Church, in the figure of St. Paul, who was the first person to suggest that Jesus was God, actually put his teachings beyond reach. Because it's very easy for any Christian today to say, well, I try my best, but I can't live like Jesus. After all, he was God. But if Jesus was human and a good teacher, then yes, he is capable of emulation. And people from many devout spiritual streams are trying to do that as we speak.
So I just wanted to say just before we go, roses are red, violets are bluish. If it wasn't for St. Paul, we'd all be Jewish. I hope you enjoyed tonight's show. I've been James Martin. If you've enjoyed today, you know, that's my name. If you haven't, I've been Renee Banner. Final word to you, Renee.
Well, I just would like to thank everyone for joining us, for being interested in what we did so many years ago. And hopefully we will provide some more information for people as we go forward, at least further sparking the conversation about the mystery of Rennes-le-Château. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone, and we shall see you next Friday.